Well, hello, and welcome to the Legendarium Green Team. I'm Jingles90, and with me today are Little Red Book
Hello.
and Chesky.
Hey everybody.
Today, we are discussing Book 7 of the Alex Verus series, Burned by Benedict Jacka. Texas Blade unfortunately couldn't make it tonight, but we hope he'll be back for Bound. So, let's just do a really quick 5 minute ranking, shall we? Where does
In
this
the
book place?
series or
Just for the 7 so far, where do y'all place this one?
For the
I'm just
first
curious.
seven, let's see. I think this one has to go a little bit higher because we are finally starting to see more of that overall plot progression, right? The first couple, it's getting us into it. It's really prepped us for what the stories are kind of about and what's going to happen. And now things are moving forward. Richard's back. Things are happening. We're seeing a lot more of everything, I feel like, in this one, right? A lot more danger, a lot more potential, a lot more progression and thing in a lot of the areas. And so it doesn't feel like you could almost say that this is where we start to break out of the monster of the week kind of framework, right? Where it's like, oh, here's an episode, reset, here's the next episode, reset, or next book. And now we're like, okay, well that's broken. Now we have to move on and like keep going. Now it's not 100%, exactly like that. But that's kind of how I feel like this one is. It's starting to really push us into the big world.
we do have some new monsters though.
Do we have new monsters or just the same monsters over again? Because
No.
Levistus is still here and he's still a monster.
Olympus still exists.
And so does Richard. No, the fire sprites. That was fun. And
The
then
fire sprites are cool.
the spell drinker, is that what it was called?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Mhm.
So
And possibly a genie.
possibly.
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 No, I
Mhm.
I think this is where everything starts to gel. So I would definitely give it the best so far because we get some fun political machinations. We get some fun getting out of trouble for a couple of our characters. And we start to see the bigger picture of how this world works. But having said that, we have been gradually introduced in a very good way into what this world is. And so yeah, it's a little bit it's it's expanding the story at the same time keeping the story contained. I don't know exactly how to explain it. Do you understand what I'm
Yeah,
Yeah,
trying
I
to
think
say?
I
I
understand.
can see what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the reason I asked just up front is because, it's an easy way to do a non-spoiler ranking for people who aren't going to listen past these first 5-10 minutes. But also, because I did find like the changeover from the previous books to be very noticeable, that we are looking more at main arc stuff
Mm-hmm.
than maybe what we've been doing. Uh, Obviously, there's always been bits and pieces in the last 6 books, but this one really felt like an even bigger culmination of
Like
everything.
the main arc is actually coming to the front. It's kind of
Yeah,
been in the background for the last couple, and now it's like, oh, now the main is the main.
yeah, and now we're gonna get into the meat of Richard and Alex and their relationship and what Richard has even been up to. That mystery seems like it's not gonna be, you know, that far off from being revealed. Um, and just a lot of really cool things. Also, yeah, it's not like Veiled where we had, you know, an operation that is feels very isolated. Like there is an operation in this book, but it has everything to do with what Alex is trying to do in this book, which is not get killed. um, and so like uh so yeah, everything has its place and everything has its purpose, and just no real questioning of that. Uh, Also dealing with like just a lot more subtlety and maybe the morality of everything, and just like the intertwinedness of trying to decide what's good, what's bad. How do you function within the bureaucracy? How do you not? Um, do you get to choose to just run away, or do you have to actually start being a part of things?
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, I really just liked the way that this book kind of started to answer some of those bigger questions. Um,
And I don't know if you
so
noticed this, but this book felt like it had less funny moments,
it did,
Mhm.
right? Like,
yeah,
it still has a couple, and that's not good or bad. It's just a tone. It's just that tonal shift. We're kind of moving away from the sassy. I'm so funny. Like you know what I mean. They're still there, but it's moving into, like you said, those heavier themes. The what does it mean to have power? Who should have the power? What, how do you live in an organization? Like, do you? Yeah, we can talk about it when we get to the discussing of things. But yeah,
That's why I'm so happy that Hermes is there, because he's always there for a little wink and nod.
Yeah, absolutely.
Him
Although,
wake him
where
waking
the heck?
Alex up for food and stuff like that. Just like, I woke up with a cold nose in my back. Things like that. I mean,
He's just staring at me, but we understand each other. We know.
we know.
and he's just a great support animal.
He is. Although I gotta wonder, okay, where did Hermes go for like the latter half of this book? I guess we're
Who
just to assume
knows?
he's out running around doing whatever he does, right? There
Yeah,
was a couple of times where that seems to be a thing that I want to bring up later. But
I think we just have to assume that
yeah,
with his. I guess we'll wait till spoiler. But
yeah.
I
But
mean, Hermes just does his thing, and then he harasses Alex for bacon.
Hermes
so,
is a smart animal, so that's all we need to say.
yeah.
I
So
mean, haven't we already spoiled that about what a blink fox is?
Everybody knows. I mean, if
we've
they're
been reading
starting
this
here,
far.
yeah, if they're starting
Yeah.
here to listen to us and say like, oh, maybe I want to read this, start at book one, please. But yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, with that, let's go ahead and dive into the spoilers, shall we?
let's do it.
7 days. That's how long Alex Verus has to find a way to stop the kill order that's just gone out from the Light Council. The order covers his execution and all known associates. Vary and Anne need to be moved away from his sponsorship. Luckily, Landis exists. Luna needs to stop being his apprentice. The best way for her to do that is to take her journeyman course, and she fortunately has an able teacher in Chalice who can get her there. That leaves Alex occupied with what to do for himself. The best way to remove the order is to get a majority vote from the senior council to prohibit it. To assist with that, Alex takes a job from a senior council member to work with the keepers and retrieve an ancient artifact, possibly a genie, from a bubble realm before Richard Drack does. Before the operation, however, Verus is attacked by Light Mage Crusaders, who are certain he will help Richard meet his goals. Anne arrives to help. Luna and Vari don't, because they're probably doing like they do on the Discovery Channel, and she and Alex barely escape. Alex's apartment and
Sorry.
shop are burned down in the process by a light mage named Ares. Alex retrieves the artifact, is congratulated by the keepers, and supposedly secures his vote that will remove the kill order. However, on the day of Luna's trials, Landis and Vari discover that Anne was not successfully transferred, and Indaris betrays Alex, putting his vote for the order. The keepers come to arrest Alex, but Alex avoids capture and destroys his friendship with Caldera in the process. Anne and Alex go on the run for a few weeks until a call from one of Levistus's representatives reveals that they are ready to kill Luna unless Alex turns himself in. Ready to go out on his own terms, Alex booby traps an old London warehouse and prepares to play a few rounds of Gears of War Horde mode before ultimately deciding to take his own life. But it doesn't happen. Like any good bureaucracy, some solid paperwork will prevent kill orders, and that's what happens here. Alex and Annie have become so isolated and cornered that Morden is able to take advantage and make them official light mages liaisons to the dark mages, specifically Richard. After trying to refuse, Morden puts the beat down on Alex and informs him that he can no longer try to kill himself because his life is no longer his to gamble. The next day, Anne and Alex gate to Richard's house and walk to a grim future. Burned. Book's
Mm.
intense.
Yeah, if that whole like summary didn't spill it out for you that this book was intense, like, I mean, all right, Jingles, I got to ask you. Obviously, in the beginning, you know that certain things are not going to work out, right?
Sure.
What was your kind of predictions as you started and were like after the kill order comes out? What were your predictions for how he would get screwed over?
Okay. So a couple of things. Um, yeah, Very. I've never really had much doubt that Very's gonna be okay. Like that made sense. So he was totally out of my mind because I figured that was gonna work out. Luna, I actually was concerned that something was gonna happen at the trial for her. That I couldn't see. And I kind of expected to be out just because she's already kind of a pariah. And Alex, I just assumed was going to be forced in some capacity to go to back to Richard, but I thought he was kind of going to do it on his own decision. Not that Morden was going to come in and be like, "I'm done playing games with you. Like, do it, or I start slowly killing everyone you love,
And
and I'm going to
wasn't
make you
that a
suffer that."
scene?
That
That
was
was
so
a
crazy.
theme. Like he's like,
Yeah.
you have the impression of me that's wrong. Like you
Yeah.
think I'll just back off? Well, I'm not going to anymore.
You
Oh,
think I'm a paper tiger with that has no threat.
yeah,
That's a mistake. And just throws death lightning at him, picks him up. I was horrified during that entire scene. I was just like, "Oh, this is the Morden I've been expecting the whole time." And I was kind of starting to doubt that it even existed. But no, he's been playing the political game, and this was a place where he didn't have to, and it was just horrendous. So,
yeah. Um, all right, back to the beginning then. This is what I highlighted as I was reading it this time. He knows he's gotten the news that the kill order is coming at him, right? And I think it's about Sonder, and Saunders like, look, all he did was pass a proposal. It's a negotiating tactic. I'm sorry, if your negotiating tactic is threat of death, it's not negotiation anymore. That's like death threats. That's a death sentence, and
Well,
like,
kinda cracks me up, and this is like a mean it's a very dark humor. He's like, "Well, do you even know what he wants?" And, he's like, "We pretty much told you what he told you what he wanted. He wants us dead.
yeah,
yeah.
That's what
he's
he
like,
wants."
he told us to back off White Rose, which you have a hard time understanding, and we said no, and he wants to kill us. And but I think this is the start. I mean, I know I said it in last episode as well, but like a lot through this book, you have Sonder just not grasping or understanding the actual pressures that like Alex and Luna and Anne have, where it's just like, well, just talk to them. It's okay. They won't kill you. They won't like. It's like Sonder. You know that there is a death order. That is not something that you just talk your way out of, especially
No.
past on an emergency setting. You know what I mean? It's not.
Yeah.
But Sonder just like he's willfully dependent on the council. Like he chooses to willfully believe in the good of the council, even when he's starting to be confronted with the not so good sides of the council, and he's kind of willfully starting to ignore them. You know, like oh, it's okay. It's a negotiating tactic. It's fine. Just talk to them. You know, turn yourself in. Like, and it's like, well, no, 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 it's not. Yeah,
I think that he is incapable of thinking in the way that's necessary to think. I just don't think he's capable of it. He's not.
incapable, like, or just he's not going to because that's not how he was raised. Because he was raised in the light mage system, and so to
Yeah,
him,
well,
it's
so
totally
was
normal.
Levistus.
Right.
But he is able to I think Sonder cannot think that way.
I think Sonder is a more apt representation of most people, where they willingly not look at it too critically because they don't want to. Well, they don't want to rock the boat, and they don't want
Yeah.
to cause a stink, and they don't want to be the one that it's pointed at next. Because that's really, I mean, comes down to it. Like if Sonder really throws a stink, sure he's a great time mage, but they'll find another time mage. There's nothing that couldn't happen to Sonder, right? Like he's just as vulnerable. He's slightly less vulnerable.
So what you're saying is he's just following orders.
I don't think so because he is more conflicted about it. I think he has a higher faith in the bureaucracy than it deserves. That he's
Yeah.
willing to believe the system is good even when he starts to see these other things that like, oh no, the Light Council doesn't just kill people just because they want to. Like Levistus can't control the council. Well, apparently he can, right? Because it somehow got out. But he's willing to say, well, it was just a fluke. This isn't like what the count. I think he's just got those better ideas that propaganda stuck in him that the council is good, and he's only ever really seen the good side of it because he's never been on the bad side.
I think he's willfully optimistic, and that makes him willfully ignorant, right? I think, and it's a state of being that only comes from like being in that privileged position of benefiting from the council as it is.
I, I'm going to push back, and here's why. Because he had the same attitude towards the depths. He was like, just talk to them, just talk to them. If you talk to them, it'll all work out. Like that's his mindset. Like everything can be handled diplomatically. Like there's never a reason for force, except of course when you're defending my personal body.
Sure.
So that's kind of he can't imagine a time when diplomacy won't work.
Right, but I think he can't because he's expected it to work out in his favor,
And
right?
it
And he
always
doesn't
has.
understand why it doesn't work out for other people in their favor. Um, and he and Caldera kind of fulfill. two sides of a coin of the same coin. Like Caldera is very much the opposite of that, where she does have an understanding of the laws and chooses to enforce those laws to the letter because she believes that it does work and has seen that it does work on occasion, but again kind of ignores the upper tier of why she's making no progress is because she doesn't bend at all. So
And her thing with enforcing the laws is she's like, "Well, I have to have this warrant." Okay, so fine, you have to have this warrant. But she can't see why adepts and sensitives don't feel protected. She's like, "Well, I have to have a warrant." And this was in the last book, right? Where
Yeah.
the bar gets burned up or whatever. And she's like, "Look, I have to have a warrant to arrest this dude." And Alex is saying, "Yeah, well, it's been however many days or whatever or weeks." And she's like, "Well, I have to have a warrant." So she follows the letter of the law without seeing why the spirit of the law is being, ignored or perverted. Because if it was a mage doing that to another mage, the council would issue that warrant right away, or the whoever.
Well,
Right.
he brings that up. He's like when
Right.
he's talking to her about going in somewhere, and she's like, "Oh, I can't arrest him based on this circumstantial evidence." And he's like, "This I've seen less evidence work against a non mage in plenty of
mhm,
situations.
Right.
Like
plenty
this
of
Right.
is
situations.
this is cherry picking the scenes, right?" I Caldera just makes me so angry because she's just like
Mhm.
she's always been on his side. She's seen him. You'd think you'd say they'd know each other pretty well, but every time she's in a situation, she always treats him like an enemy or like an idiot. Like he's just like she never gives him. She's never like, you know what? I trust you. Like I know that you've never like. She kind of does in this one a couple times, right? She comes up to bat with him against Ares, and she hears about the death order going out. But even when she knows that he's got a death order, she's still like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to keep you in custody because surely nothing bad has ever happened to
Right.
anybody
Exactly.
in the history of
Yeah.
custody ever. Like, but she's unwilling. She's unwilling to change and to bend, like you said. It was like that.
Mhm.
She's not able to see beyond. This is the law, and those above me know better than I do.
Well, and that's yeah, and that's like one of the more frustrating things about her and Alex's final fight is he's pretty open with her at this point. The only reason he chooses not to be open with her earlier is because he knows that if he tells her anything, she's going to find that to be illegal and needs to take action of some kind, right? So he
Right.
chooses not to give her information. But once she does have that information and she is aware of the situation, even then, she still tries to bring him in and he's like, why would I go? What
Yeah,
is there for me if I go? Because we know what happens at the end of this. In about, I don't know, 26 hours, I'm going to be dead because I'm in custody of the keepers and a kill order is going to go in action for my name. So,
yeah,
can you
and it's
figure
like
out why I might not want to do this, please? Like just think about it for a second, you know.
And
Um
like at the same time, it's just like she's what was I gonna say? I was gonna say, oh shoot, I had a really good thought for a
It
second.
was amazing, I'm
Oh,
sure.
this is it. I found it. It's like what's his crime? What did Alex do that everybody's so mad about him about? Levish just put forth a kill order. That's all that it took. He didn't break any laws. He didn't attack anybody, right? And so you'd think the police organization would think, like, hey, we have this kill order, but it doesn't say, and they're just trained, you just kill who we tell you to kill. We do you what you tell me to do. But like, there's no like real cause for it. It's like, oh, this guy's mad at me. He put out a kill order, and now
Well, and Barry
it's
even
just
brings it up where he says at the very beginning, he's like, "But you have to have a trial." And then you find out it's only the light mages
yeah,
that get
only light
trials.
mages have.
So I want to go back well, not further. I want to talk about Arachne's conversation. So first of all, he has this really fun fight scene.
yeah. This was the one funny scene in the entire book.
It was a good one.
um, yeah. He's just basically, I'm Wolf. You're not Wolf, James.
James, calm down, James. Well, even before that, I took a half hour just holding up weapons like overkill, overkill, overkill.
So I hit them with my stick.
Yep. And a dustbin.
And
The
it just
dustbin lid was just for defense, though. Like,
well, in the scene where they're talking about, where he's talking to Landis, and Landis is, like, laughing so hard at the whole scene. He's like, "Oh, yeah, we thought it was really funny that you beat the crap out of this kid and his buddies." Um, no, so the part where Arachne basically says, "Alex's problem is that he is not aligned with a greater power, so he needs to either do that or become a greater power himself." What do you guys think about that whole conversation?
I think it's very true to it's true to a lot of stories, which I feel like is true in a general sense to a lot of life. If you don't have the power to stand on your own, then you have to be with somebody who has the power to protect you, which means you're kind of at their whims, right? That's an unfortunate thing. And so if you want to be independent, like Alex is, you want to be on your own, make your own decisions, then you have to be strong enough to support those decisions and to stand up for
Mhm.
them. Like as it is, Alex, you could say, is technically strong enough to stand up for his own decisions, but on the same level, he's not because, the whole point of the book, the Vistas put out a kill order and he wasn't able to stop it. And if he was more powerful or more connected, and he chooses not to be connected because on another theme of this book, there's the whole everybody refuses to just cooperate and talk with each other and like think with their heart and not with their stupidity sense. Like, but like, yeah, he has to have the power, and he doesn't have it. He can't. I agree with Arachne. He needs to get in with somebody or get powerful enough on his own.
Yeah, I'm kind of there too. Um, it, there's a point where Alex has been too involved to just stand on his own without amassing his own power base
Yeah, if
at
he
this
just
point.
stayed in his nice little shop and done
Yeah.
his little shop stuff, nobody would care about him. How do you guys feel about Lyle?
Lyle's interesting one. He's kind of like another Sonder to me after this book. I do kind of want to genuinely believe that this guy just has no idea that he's totally messing with Alex's life.
I
um, but it's you know, it's one of those things where I think we've only seen Lyle one other time, right? And that didn't go well either. That kind of ignited this whole situation
There's also the
as
time where
moon
he
faded.
runs into him at Sandagash's party. Hi the
Right.
hell. He keeps
he's been
walking up
around.
behind him.
He's been
Yeah,
around a
but
couple times.
he's in the background mostly, but I honestly think that Lyle was sincere. He's like,
Oh, I do too.
I was not trying to screw things up for you. I
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
didn't realize that Levistus is a horrible person. And by the way,
right.
my current boss is also a horrible person, but I didn't realize that.
I think it partially comes back to what you said earlier that Lyle is trying to do his best, but while he's trying to do his best, I feel like not like Lyle was sincere. Like I want to help you. Like I just they needed a diviner and you were a diviner I knew and he's like you were out not light, so I wanted to bring you in. He's honestly thinking, oh, this will be good for Alex. He gets in the system, not realizing, I mean, how could you predict what was going to happen, right? Like that's
Mhm.
Yeah.
But then this
Yeah.
time, he doesn't have the power to actually follow through because that's his boss's power. And his boss made a different decision. So like I think Alex of course was very frustrated and like when you have repeatedly bad experiences with somebody, even if they're trying, it makes you really frustrated. So
Yeah. Now, maybe you guys have more knowledge than I do at this point, but my question is like, does Lyle ever have the conversation with his boss? Does he hear that they gave up the vote for Alex because they get another position on the council? And does that make it okay for Lyle? I don't
Uh,
know.
I
I don't
don't remember
know.
that scene.
I don't remember either.
I don't
Lyle's
think there's a scene like that, but I think
Yeah.
after his phone conversation with Alex and the votes go through, I think he has to know eventually, like, oh, this is what we're trading for this. But I do think at the time of everything happening, he wasn't planning on a double cross or anything.
Sure. Yeah.
But
Yeah, that
but
was
Lyle's like,
purely hypothetical, but
yeah, so he's not gonna go against his boss. He's just gonna do what his boss said.
Could we just
Uh
have more Landis? That's what I want.
Landis is so wonderful. What a refreshing person in the faces of Caldera. Like we have two keepers, one who desperately wants to follow orders, and the other who is going to follow orders but understands when they're a problem. Like,
and Landis has the power to back up his own decisions, right?
yeah,
It does come back to that power again a little bit, right? He's Landis is strong enough and connected enough that nothing can happen to him in this kind of regard,
I mean, he just
because of
randomly plays around with grenades in his house.
he
It's
does.
just,
well, you saw that.
um,
Let's talk about Shireen for a second. We get a small moment with her. What do you think,
Yeah, that was
Jingles? What
very
do you
annoying.
think's going on? What should Alex be doing with that?
Well, I don't know if he really wanted to do it this way, but he's going to be spending a lot of time with Delio in the near future. So, and she can't openly just kill him at this point. I don't think. Maybe I don't know how where she's at, but it sounds like they have the opportunity to do therapy, uh, force therapy.
Don't know what she expects Alex to do. Like, I'm with Alex in this whole thing.
Yeah,
She is super, super crazy and super angry. And she is even more angry now that Alex has been brought into Richard's household. That's what she was always afraid of, is that somebody else would, because she has this,
She's insecure.
she's insecure and she's afraid that she's afraid of being challenged. She's very dark magey that way. And she's afraid that if Alex challenges her, that he will take her place. I mean, I have never understood her motivation for trying to get Alex to save Rachel, or her thought that she can't, or he can save her, except for
Well,
this prophecy.
do you think she's bluffing about the prophecy? Because she
I
does
mean,
kind of throw it out there at the last second. It's like, oh yeah, there's also a dragon prophecy. Like, aha, like it's all on Rachel.
it's all on
mm,
Alex.
It's all on Alex to convince Rachel to betray to step away. Because if she doesn't step away, everybody dies, and if she does, then everything's good.
well, so is Shireen's dragon prophecy? There was a second dragon prophecy in this as well,
There was
right? From the Crusaders. Their prophecy is also a dragon prophecy.
Oh,
no,
Or no, theirs
no.
was
theirs
It's a
was just the
diviner.
great diviner, Eluna, or
got
whatever
it.
his name is, the really
Alan
Somebody,
special diviner.
Alanudo or whatever his
Yeah.
name is, yeah.
so
But yeah, let's go back to that. I wanted to bring up that miscommunication again, right? Like, there's a death order going out, but to get the death order gone, he has to take part in an operation. But the people don't want him to take part in an operation because they think he's going to give it to Richard. And it's like, you see the problem that Alex has right here. Like, if he doesn't help, then he gets killed. If he does help, he also gets killed.
Gets killed. Yeah.
Like, maybe if you light mages were a little bit less like, hey, we just want to kill everybody, things might be a little easier for you. Maybe he wouldn't want to go to the dark side, right? Like,
Yeah. Well, and I mean, even after all this, he still doesn't want to go to the dark side. I mean, they find
yeah,
a way to, yeah, they find a way to make him go to the dark side.
he's like a
But
libertarian. He's like, just leave me alone.
yeah,
Just leave me alone. Or an anarchist or something. He's just like, I just want to do my thing. Just
I just want my shop, which I loved the scene with him and the anonymous girl. That was that was great. Again, kind of going back to our last episode where we were talking about the little things that he does seem to do way more good than any of the big things that he's been doing. Um, and just yeah, it was a
well,
very sweet moment, and the fact that like he also needed it because he just wanted to help someone again that and have no ties to that help. Like it was good.
and the other thing about that is like normally in the past books we've gotten the funny customers that have been like annoying and you laugh about the fish, for example. And in this one, he's like, normally I would be annoyed, but now this just gave me like this bubble of calm. This is before he interacts with the girl. He's like, just helping, just talking to normal people and doing a normal thing. And that's what I needed. And he gets this sense of peace from escaping from this 7-day crunch period. He just gets a moment where things are normal. And then, of course, like you said, helping that anonymous girl. And he's like, that is what he wants to do. The just like when you have the random adepts come in and say, hey, what's this going to do for us? What should I do? Who should I talk to? You know, that that's my favorite part of Alex's character. And it's also why I'm really upset that the shop is burned down.
Yeah, a cool fight scene though.
well,
Speaking of burned.
after that fight scene, I just wanted to talk about the him going back to the cop with the cop and like getting his special valuable stuff.
Yep.
And there's just the one scene and he's like, what's up with that sword? And he's like, oh, he's like, oh, you must be a sensitive at the very least because you noticed it. But he's like, yeah, it cuts through just about everything, gives its wielder enhanced strength and speed. It also sends pretty much anyone who picks it up on a murderous rampage. What do you use it for? I don't. Frankly, I can't think of many situations where turning into a psychopathic berserker would really improve things very much.
So good.
I think there's more humor in this book than we're realizing just because we're so freaked out about all the bad stuff.
The end is so I mean, a lot of earlier, I guess, because I was just
Right.
looking at, Texas's, notes here, and he mentioned the grenade ping pong was
Grenade, yeah.
happening, which tells you where
I
my humor is. Someone did die in that
But
exchange,
it was
but
so funny.
like
but it
Alex
was so
said,
good.
if you come with lethal intent, he'll use lethal intent back,
Yeah.
right? Like they knew what they were doing. The only thing negative I have to say about grenade ping pong, and because he does grenade ping pong 2 or 3 times in this book, is that he explains how he's so good at it every time.
Yes.
Right? He could have just said it the first time and then we're done with it. Like even saying it once a book is not going to be killer, right?
Yeah.
That's fine. Maybe people forgot, maybe you just want to remind people. But every time something's thrown and he says, I've practiced this a lot. I'm like, I know. Trust me. Yeah, I read the book 100 pages
I've come
ago.
to
You said you were
understand it.
really good at it. I got it. You're still really good at it. Like I said, minor thing, but
Yeah.
like
Yeah, as a
Okay.
something about
stylistic
writing
thing,
style. He just
yeah.
I don't know if he doesn't trust the readers or if he's just is kind of just trying. That's just the way he writes.
Yeah. Well, as a stylistic thing, like I kind of give Jacka a lot of slack with that because the books are so short. So it's like really easy to fly through and just like, oh yeah, I'm familiar with this topic. I can just kind of skim this and then, okay, back to
Yeah,
it. But then it's also every time he does it in a different book, he actually does offer up like some really cool visuals. Like what was the one time when he was like I can't remember which book this was, maybe Cursed, where he's discussing like how he reiterates each time that he shoots a gun so that he can figure out exactly where the bullet's going to go, right? Like it's the same practice as throwing the grenades or throwing anything small.
yeah.
Yeah, it's the one with the genie. Not the genie, the monkey's paw.
The monkey's paw.
Yeah, so
I think
that's
that
correct.
is
Yeah.
yeah, it's cursed. So this is what grates me about his style. Every time he says Rachel's soft voice, I just want to or not Rachel, Anne's soft voice. I'm just like, dude, we know she has a soft voice. Can we just not say that every time she says
We
anything?
pass it. This
Please?
foible, yeah, this descriptor is no longer useful.
The only
Yeah,
time it's useful is she has like what was it? Like she had an angry voice at some point in this book.
I think that while I can agree with you, I also think that Red, a little bit more about what's going on with that.
No.
I think
I,
so.
no,
I
I
I,
do
I I won't say it's 100% like that's how he is, but I think you could say a little bit because of things coming up.
well, I mean, it's still really annoying. I'm sorry, it really
That's
is.
fine. That's fine.
I would much prefer it's only used when she's using her other voice. And then maybe when she switches back to her soft voice. Does that make sense? But not every single time she speaks. I'm sorry. No. It's really annoying, especially considering that I listened to this book 2 weeks ago because I thought we were recording and then I listened to it again on Friday, and it really stands out when you listen to it a couple times in a row. Just saying. I'm
Give it a
just
little.
saying.
That's fine. That's
Yeah.
Because she has another voice. Just introduce it, her new voice, and then go back to the soft voice, and then we just assume she's talking softly the rest of the time. That's what I'm saying. We don't get a descriptor for Luna's voice, or for Very's voice, or for Sandra's voice.
But let's just kick the door open there. I don't think Alex is in love with the other ones either.
No,
So
I don't think so.
So, speaking of jingles, are you still shipping for Anna and Alex?
Oh yeah, they're just colliding together like um well, I was gonna say it's like
Like
something.
Very
I
and
have no idea. Like Very and Luna. Oh my gosh. I'm so frustrated with them.
what?
Don't turn your don't turn your phones off. You didn't
Hey,
turn your
come
phones
on.
off. You
That's
just
that's
ignored
some
it.
important time right there they were having together.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't need to
Little
turn your
hanky
phone
panky,
off.
Training. Yeah.
They're training. They were training their bodies. Jingles.
Yeah.
Come on.
You know what's really
Yeah.
funny is the first time I read this book, I totally missed that.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah,
Oh.
I got it the second time I read it, but the first time I just totally missed it.
Yeah.
And I was like this time I was like, "Oh, okay." So
Right.
they were well, in fairness, it could be considered training because Luna has to control her curse,
That's
and
true.
it's a touch-based curse. So they were in fact training.
That's true.
Yeah.
We're like one step
Sure.
away from making this a proper
Sure.
smut novel.
Sure. They were training. Yeah. It's. I mean, I think you'd have to go a little bit different direction, Jingles, for it to even start to go in that direction.
Yeah.
Like,
In in fairness, she had all that training, and her second trial is having to touch somebody to lead them through to solve a puzzle. So that training
Someone
actually
was
really
being
came in
led
handy.
somewhere. Mhm.
She did pass.
She did.
so yeah, she passes her exam. Um, I noticed this time around that I caught it a lot earlier this time. Right, that was at least this read through that when Landis is like, "Oh yeah, I can take over the sponsorship for Veri and Anna." He actually only mentions Veri. Now I don't think that was I don't think that was Landis hinting that Annie wouldn't get pushed through, but I
Yeah.
kind of think it was an author nod to to that, hinting
Yeah.
at us that Annie wasn't going to get pushed through like she was,
Okay,
right? Because she wasn't.
we gotta settle
Interesting.
on her name because 'cause we've called her Anna, Annie, and Anne.
Well, it's Annie, isn't it? Anne. Isn't that how she's always said
That's
in the?
Anne
That's
to
Anne.
me.
It's Anne in
How
the
would you
Um,
book.
spell Annie then? How what would be?
Anie
I
is
mean,
how I
what's the
typically.
audiobook say, Red?
Anne.
Okay, then we'll go with Anne.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I mean,
I'm
Anne makes
so angry right
Annie to
now.
me.
I am so angry. I will never forgive you.
All right, so um, did you? I mean, you obviously you knew something was going to go on. Did either of you kind of pick up on that? I mean, you've read it before, so you kind of knew. But
Mhm.
like, did you kind of see ahead of time that it was a little bit more foreshadowed, or because I felt like it was more foreshadowed this time, like, oh, Vari's going to get through, but not Anne.
I did not pick up on that. I did
Okay,
not feel that
fine,
way. Was I surprised? No,
right?
because the council's gonna counsel.
Right. I think we've also, yeah. I think at the beginning the book does a pretty good job of laying out, well, and also just through the series in general, pretty does a pretty good job of laying out the scale of difficulty for these four particular individuals. But yeah, I didn't see any hints
Okay,
of it within.
so I have a thought. What if this was all just machinations on Jacka's part to get Alex and Anne to spend so much time alone together?
It's possible.
I mean, I think it was an unforced side effect that he wanted to have happen. I don't necessarily think he planned the whole death sentence.
Around this
I
civil
don't
Yeah,
know.
romance.
No, no, no. I'm talking about when they have to skip town for a few. Was that this book or was that a
yeah,
different
that
book?
was this
Yeah, they
book.
skipped down this book.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay, yeah. They
they
had to
skipped
skip.
multiple towns.
I
Mhm.
know. That's what I'm saying. Like, he's like, okay, so here's what's gonna happen. I'm not gonna let Anne get sponsorship from Landis. I am going to have them skip multiple towns together. And things are getting all
Uh,
tense.
eh, I could see it, but I think it was. I think it just comes down to more that the keepers don't want Annie because she's a life mage, and they don't like a life mage trained by Dark. Vari is an exception because he's like personally apprenticed to Landis, but Anne's still on the outs, and she has no personal connections to anybody, and nobody likes her, and so that she's easier to just to nick off, and it's one more person that Alex has to take care of to stop him on the.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
she is kind of creepy.
here's the other. I don't think they did much emotional. Uh, they didn't do too much emotionally or physically on that run, just
No,
because I
because
don't think he really acknowledged. I don't think he acknowledged that he even really had emotions for her until he sent her to Melbourne.
yeah, that's what I
For
was gonna say.
yeah,
Until the last portal out, then that's when they're like, "Oh, we're acknowledging this now." And
yeah,
I'd say it's been growing, and like them being closer together was obviously like a benefit, and like, but yeah,
sure. And I
Yeah,
mean, this was really the first time for Alex to talk to any of the four of them about their emotional ties to each other in that way. Like he talks to Luna and Anne in this book about why Anne is single because he still doesn't get it, and Luna for what her feelings are towards Varys. So
I just gotta say, I love Alex and Luna's relationship. Like, originally, you're kind of like, oh, are they, aren't they, or whatever. It's now just such like a deep personal trust that isn't romantic. And it's nice to see that in a male and female relationship in a book because you don't get that often. Normally, it turns into they do.
Right. And I think, like,
And
not to assign, like, a specific role, but it does feel more familial in a
yeah,
way, like, they are there to support each other.
yeah, uh, like Big Brother, little
Yeah.
sister type
Yeah,
of thing.
that works, yeah.
And I just really enjoy their relationship. But also Luna's my favorite character, I'm not gonna lie. So
She's pretty cool. I don't blame you.
Well, yeah. I mean, it would say something nice about Jacka's writing. I think he does his characters really well. Like they're all got their own motivations and stuff, and they're all like you could pull any one of them out and be like, yes, I know kind of how this character is going to react in most given situations, and like who they are as a person.
Right. And yeah, and it works across the board. I mean, using Caldera as an example,
Mhm,
I I understand Caldera through and through at this point, or at least I feel I do, right? And even
mhm,
during like most of those scenes at the end, I'm just like hoping, oh, maybe she'll finally change her mind on something. Like that was my hope. But in the back of my head, I was like, there's no way. There's no reason for her to change at this point, and I understand that. So,
yeah, even when I say I don't understand, I do understand. I just
right.
really think those characters are I don't like where they're coming from. I don't like the decisions that they're
Yeah,
making.
that's just a credit to his writing that he makes you dislike him so much. I mean, it takes work to make a character that people.
Levistus is not hard to dislike.
Well, Levistus is the special exception there, of course. Anybody who tries to, I was thinking about this book read through. I was like, what if this book was from a different person's perspective? How would that change? Like, thinking specifically of Sonder and Caldera, how would it change my opinion of what's actually happening in this book? You know, Alex the rogue mage. But then I'm like, yeah, but Alex is he's never the one to start the fights or like to actually like start the things and go like, I'm going to start this fight with this council member. It's always, but then I'm like, but then like, they wouldn't know that because they're not involved in it. They just hear what the council says. And
Right.
I was trying to think through it, how different it would be. And I was like, well, it'd be probably really different.
Well, yeah, there was a point where I was actually again a benefit a, a praise for Jacka's writing style, but I did for the fight between him and Caldera. She says some things about Alex, about how he's pretty selfish, how he has a huge ego, and how he ever lets everyone else take the fall for him in certain situations. And I started thinking about that. I was like, that doesn't sound like the Alex I know, but it's also because I'm hearing everything from Alex's perspective. And like even at this moment where you two are fighting about this, his goal right now is to make sure that like Luna is not captured. Like he's hoping that whatever he's doing is distracting people. And it's like
Yeah.
this isn't an egotistical person. This isn't a person looking out just for himself. So it's interesting, Caldera, that you're a person who like clearly trusts Alex, but see him in this way. And maybe it's just anger talking, but I don't think it's only just anger talking.
I think the anger just brings the truth or the real feelings up
Yeah.
earlier, versus hiding more.
Feel like I have thoughts, but I'm probably not gonna be able to articulate them about that. Um, my main problem with the whole situation with the council, and we've talked about this before, is that if they had managed their house better, they wouldn't have the problems that they have.
Yeah.
And I think that was it. Okay, so Caldera says that about Alex, but Alex is somebody who's actually trying to change the system. He's trying to get things better. She is just has her head down and she's going by the book. So I think she really does think he's an egotistical person
Yeah.
because he's willing to push back and she's not.
Yeah, I could totally see that. I could see really how anyone who believes in following the order would right away see Alex as just an insubordinate ass. Like just this guy's just a mess. Um
I mean, he kind of can be an ass sometimes,
yeah.
in fairness.
Okay.
So
Well,
predictions? Oh,
yeah,
wait.
Jingles. Yeah, hit us with some predictions. There was a lot of talk about genies in this book. What do you think about
Yeah.
that?
Well, okay. So here's where I think we're headed at this point. Because Alex is technically a light mage liaison to Richard, I think we're going to see a lot more politic because we do need to. I think we're also going to get much more clearly defined roles of like the Crusaders and the Union and all those other subgroups of light council mages. I also think we're about to see some sort of heist again. That box,
Mm.
that box is out of that bubble realm. It's not in Richard's hands, and now he has a bunch of people in the council who can fulfill the role of getting it for him. So I think that's where we're gonna go with that for the moment. Like I said, Delio and Alex therapy is about to begin. We're gonna see. um, and then Levistus seems like he's kind of neutered again for the time being, but I don't think that's going to stop our interactions between him and Alex. I think we're going to see a couple of heated conversations there. Yeah, all a little vague, but I think our primary focus right now is looking at what not Morden, what Richard is going to make Alex and Anne do, and just kind of him having to live in that house again and causing maybe a little bit of a
Oh wait,
traumatic
no, that's a
response.
spoiler. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll stay away from
I
that
almost
then.
said something, but I stopped myself.
Well, I'm glad, Red. Yeah, there's a lot. Like you said, now he's in with the he's not even in with the dark mages. He's working with the dark mages. Because he has to, right? So, who knows what's going to happen next? But yeah, there's a lot still coming down.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't think this is a spoiler. Just so you know, as the next books, like the time gets more and more compressed between the books,
Okay. Yeah, I
and the
think
time
so.
in the books gets more compressed.
Interesting. Okay. Well, what was the span of this? Was already just the span of a week.
I
Well,
think
I
that
guess unless you include the exile. So
Yeah,
like a
it
month.
was it was a week of like hard action, and then like a couple months of less hard action.
Right.
We speed
that we
spent
know of.
Well, we do know, because come on,
Bring
they
it
weren't.
back.
We know.
Saying there could have been. We don't know what's going on with Barry. And
Well, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure we do, since like they barely touch each other at the end of the book, and they're like, ah, you know what I mean?
tell you that was training, just not the kind of training that is normally supervised.
So, all right, let's get back to this. Next book is book 8, Bound.
Bound.
Yes.
That name kind of speaks for itself, doesn't it? A little
Yeah.
What
bit.
is the metaphor for bound?
What is yes,
Oh, you
Ian.
mean
What is the
yes,
metaphor?
what are the metaphors? The metaphor of this book is don't piss off light mages unless you're strong enough to fight them off.
Yeah.
I mean, it's burned. He literally
Yeah.
gets burned by
He
the
gets
deal,
burned.
and
He gets
Anne gets
burned.
burned.
Yeah. He actually gets burned by a fire mage. There's
Mhm.
burn all the way through this book. He gets burned by Morden.
Yeah, that was just makes you be like, "Ooh, don't fight Moradin, please."
But okay. There are okay, so we're kind of winding down here. So I did want to point out some cool stuff that I noticed in this book that don't really have much to do with plot or anything, but were just kind of fun. Um, in the when he is in his safe room, Alex says references a tube, and he says that the tube just fed a couple months ago.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's the monkey's paw.
Right.
Yes.
But the last time we saw the monkey's paw used was like 2 years ago, not a
Yeah.
couple months ago. So this thing is still just out there, just doing monkey paw
Well,
stuff, and then
Alex can't control the monkey paw, right?
yeah,
The monkey paw sees Alex like a nice restaurant, where like
okay,
it chills out at Alex's place until he finds a good meal, and then it goes with him, and then it comes back because it knows if it sits at Alex's place, it's well taken care of, right? Like
sure,
Alex
Be
respects
careful,
it.
Chesky. Just be careful with what you're saying.
Well, you know what I'm saying. I think the monkey's paw knows that Alex respects it, and he knows that as long as he's here, he has more access to more people without using a lot of power,
right,
right?
okay,
Versus like it goes off and kills somebody, and then it sits for a while, and then it maybe doesn't find a person, because it takes a certain type of person to want to use the monkey paw. Like think about back in book 2, right? It took Martin, dear sweet Martin, who did not die painfully enough, right? But
right,
like it takes a person like that the monkey paw wants to kill, or like feed on, or whatever, right? And
right,
so having staying at Alex's place is just a nice thing. But like Alex, he puts it in the safe room, it pops back out on the shelf, kind of like a little game. Oh, I see you got out, I'll put you back.
put it
The
back.
monkey paw wants to get out, the monkey paw's gonna get out,
Did you get
right?
enough
Like,
food, buddy? Okay,
yeah.
we're just gonna put you back in your cupboard. Very good.
So yeah, so the
Um,
monkey paw, not really. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
it does what it wants.
sure, okay,
I like how he's
um,
like, I don't really want to put it in the bag with the other imbued items, but at the same time, I like it in my pocket even less.
right. Um, But yeah, and then Hermes, yeah, I don't know where Hermes disappeared for the second half of this book, but I'm sure he's doing okay, so I'm excited to see him again.
Hermes
Um,
gonna Hermes,
and
just like the
then
monkey paw.
yeah, right, Hermes gonna Hermes. Magical creatures do what magical creatures do. Um, and then oh, speaking of which, R.I.P. Mistcloak.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was sad.
That was so sad.
yeah.
But it saved his life one more time.
It did. And then the last thing, which I thought was a really fun Easter egg that might reveal more later, but the Dark Mage team that went into the bubble, one of the people Alex fought while he was in there, I'm pretty sure is Captain America from Chosen, because he mentioned a guy with big blue eyes, and he stole the rifle from the guy and pushed him away, but then the guy had another rifle in his hand right away.
Yeah, it was.
So, yeah, that was
You
cool.
are
I
correct,
like that.
sir.
Yeah.
That is got to be so again, if I were an adept, gate magic is first, but that would be my second.
Yeah, the pocket dimensions. Heck
Yeah.
yeah. So, anyway, those are just fun things I noticed in this one.
I just noticed
Um,
we used more portals in this story.
a lot more portals. Oh,
You know,
that's what
you had Cimarus going around.
yeah, what did Texas call her? Annoying dunce woman.
Well, she, you know, it's just annoying when your character says like, "Hey, I'm not gonna go do the thing," and then they're like, "Well, I believe you, but I'm also still going to send 6 people over to kill you."
Right.
She didn't do that. She even said she didn't do that.
Well, and I
Yeah,
She's
know
like,
that you could
"No, I didn't do
100%
that."
trust every word out of a mage's mouth because, as we know, mages are strictly incapable of lying. 100%. I mean, Caldera doesn't even lie when she, talks to Cimarus about taking her in. No, thy mages would never lie to you. Please just stay in custody. It's nice. You'll be dead by the end of it. You won't have any worldly concerns after that.
um,
I just like how
speaking of which,
cowardly she is. She's, like,
oh,
so
she's
afraid to
so
go into
bad. Yeah, and Caldera working her was actually pretty good. I did enjoy
Yeah, that
that.
was amazing.
Yeah. Speaking of that group, just real quick, it's not. It hasn't escaped my observation that their divining can still come true at this point because they literally helped it happen. So, yeah,
Yeah,
um, put Alex right back in Richard's hands for him. And then a
except
Minkowski box. Is that an actual thing? Does anyone know? Or should I just let that sit for now? I was kind of tempted to look it up, but
Yeah.
I don't know is the answer.
I don't remember it actually mattering too much. I just know of it as like a magic safe box, just a
okay,
protected box. That's all.
cool. All right. Well, anyone want to plug anything before we close out?
Uh, I will, of course, just plug my own podcast, Libromancy. I have covered all these books. They're really good. Covered the last book with me. Go ahead and listen. They're great.
I think I might have found somebody to help me with my editing, so I may have something to plug in the near future.
Hey, sweet. All right.
Because
Well
I
then,
hate editing. Yeah.
editing is not always fun.
Especially when you have me on and accidentally spoil things and say bad words.
Well, thank you. So this has been the Green Team of the Legendarium's discussion of Burned by Benedict Jacka. Please join us on the Legendarium Discord server to continue the discussion. Thanks go to Craig and the Legendarium and Horizon Braid for starting the Green Team. Intro and outro music is Galactic Damages by Jingle Punks for Chesky, Little Red Book, and Texas Blade. I'm Jingles. Until next time, thanks for listening.
Goodbye.